How does a man vanish from a sunny street, only to reappear atop a 12-foot coal pile? He was found in a locked yard with no footprints, defying every law of physical possibility. In June 1980, a grim discovery was made deep within a quiet coalyard in West Yorkshire. The body belonged to Zigmund Adamski, a man who had been missing for several mysterious days. Shockingly, this industrial site sat more than 20 miles away from his humble home. He was perched high on a massive coal pile, as if he had been dropped from above. Despite the thick layer of dust, not a single footprint led to his final resting place. Investigators were immediately baffled by suspicious burn marks covering his neck and shoulders. These second-degree burns didn't match any known chemical or heat source found on Earth. A peculiar, unidentified gel was found smeared over the mysterious wounds on his skin. This occurred in Todmorden, a town long whispered to be a notorious UFO hotspot. For Zigman, the 5 days he was missing became a void of unexplained missing time. PC Alan Godfrey was the young officer who first encountered this scene of absolute impossibility. While some suspected a family feud, the physical evidence pointed towards something much stranger. The scene was like a locked-room mystery where the room was an open-air coalyard. How does a body end up on a platform of coal without disturbing a single grain? What kind of burns leave behind a substance that modern science still cannot identify? The strange nature of his death sent ripples of fear through the local community. Decades later, the case remains a chilling testament to the unknown and the unexplained. Zigman was a simple miner whose sudden disappearance left a void that no one could explain. His clothes were neatly fastened, yet his shirt was missing, adding to the growing list of enigmas. There were no signs of a struggle, as if he had simply drifted into another dimension. The local police found themselves trapped in a puzzle that defied every standard investigative protocol. Every lead they followed only brought them deeper into a forest of impossible questions. To understand his impossible death, we must first understand the man who lived a life anything but mysterious. The man at the center of this riddle was Zigmund Adamski, a man defined by simple routine. Zigmund Adamski wasn't a man of mystery. He was a man of steady, predictable habits and hard work. His story began far from the Yorkshire hills, in the war-torn landscapes of his native Poland. He spent most of his early life there, building a foundation before seeking a brand new start. In 1960, at 37 years old, Zigmund decided to relocate and build a future in the United Kingdom. He eventually settled in the quiet village of Tingley, nestled in the heart of West Yorkshire, England. Life in Tingley was peaceful, providing the stability he had spent so many years searching for. Was there something in his past, some hidden shadow from his move, that finally caught up with him? His life was as predictable as the deep shifts in the coal mines he worked in daily. As a dedicated coal miner, Zigmund was no stranger to the darkness found deep beneath the earth. He was a man of the earth, comfortable with the physical labor and grit of the mining life. At home, he found joy and companionship in his marriage to his beloved wife, Lottie. Together, they built a happy, quiet life that seemed entirely untouched by the world's strange mysteries. Their home was a sanctuary of normalcy, far removed from the inexplicable events that were soon to follow. By the time 1980 arrived, Zigmund was 56 years old and looking forward to his golden years. He had reached an age where life should have been slowing down into comfortable, well-earned retirement. Was there a family feud lurking in the background? Or was it something far more otherworldly? Neighbors knew him as a friendly face, a man who valued his community and his steady work. To everyone who knew him, Zigmund's existence was a testament to the strength of a simple life. He remained a dedicated husband and worker, never suggesting that anything unusual haunted his quiet days. But on June 6th, that routine didn't just break it, shattered atop a mysterious, towering coal pile. The countdown to the mystery began at 3:45 p.m. on a peaceful Friday afternoon. It was June 6th, 1980, and the town of Todmorden felt quiet and perfectly normal. Zigmund Adamski prepared for a joyous occasion, with a family wedding scheduled for the next day. He had no intention of leaving his life behind, especially with such a celebration looming. Needing just a few groceries, he decided to make a quick trip to the local shops. The journey into town was a familiar one, spanning only a single mile from his home. He set off on foot, walking down the sunny streets he had traveled countless times before. What could possibly happen on a short walk that leaves no witness and absolutely no trace? If he was planning for a wedding, Why would he ever choose to suddenly disappear? Zigmund stepped out of his front door and essentially walked off the edge of the world. The simple routine of a grocery run was about to become an impossible, unsolved riddle. He vanished into thin air during that short stroll, leaving his family waiting in growing silence. No one saw him turn a corner or enter a shop. He just ceased to exist. The afternoon sun continued to shine, yet Zigmund Adamski was nowhere to be found in Todmorden. His family grew anxious as the hours passed and the wedding preparations sat untouched and empty. A 1-mile walk turned into a terrifying void that would last for 5 long, agonizing days. He left for milk and bread, but his path led him somewhere far beyond human understanding. The peaceful afternoon held a dark secret that no search party could initially hope to uncover. As the sun set, the mystery of his disappearance began to ripple through the entire community. He walked out of his front door and into a void that lasted 5 strange days. The search for Zigmund Adamski ended in the most unlikely place imaginable 5 days after he vanished. On June 11th, 1980, the silence of a Todmorden Coalyard was shattered by a truly horrifying discovery. Trevor Parker arrived that afternoon to begin his routine work at his father's busy industrial yard. At exactly 3:45 p.m., Trevor reached for the heavy iron gates to open the compound for business. As the gates swung wide, his eyes were drawn upward toward a massive, 12-foot-high pile of coal. There, perched high above the ground like a macabre monument, lay the motionless body of Zigmund Adamski. The sight was utterly baffling, as the coal pile stood far too high for anyone to climb easily. Trevor froze in disbelief, staring at the man who had been missing for 5 long, mysterious days. But the mystery only deepened when Trevor recalled his earlier visit to the yard that very morning. He had been working at the site until 11 a.m., and the coal pile was completely empty. For over 4 hours, the high perimeter gates had been securely closed and locked to all outsiders. In broad daylight, someone or something had placed Adamski atop that coal pile without being seen. How do you place a body on top of a 12-foot pile without leaving a single footprint? It was as if Adamski had been dropped from the sky directly onto his dark, dusty pedestal. The logistics of the scene defied explanation, turning a simple coal yard into a baffling crime scene. Trevor Parker's discovery would soon spark one of the strangest investigations in British history. There were no signs of a struggle and no clues as to how he reached the summit. The locked gates remained undisturbed, offering no hint of how the missing man had entered the yard. Within this short window of time, an impossible physical feat had been performed in total silence. The sheer height of the coal made any surreptitious placement of the bodies seem entirely out of reach. Witnesses would later confirm that the area had been quiet and undisturbed throughout the entire afternoon. This was a locked room mystery played out in the open air of a quiet Yorkshire town. But the location wasn't the only thing that didn't make sense about this impossible find. When Constable Alan Godfrey arrived on the scene at 4:10, the details immediately turned strange. Zigmund Adamski lay flat on his back, staring blankly upward into the overcast West Yorkshire sky. His face was frozen in a mask of pure terror, as if he died seeing something impossible. The man who worked in the mines his whole life was found in a Coalyard yet. He was spotlessly clean. Despite resting on a massive pile of fuel, not a single speck of coal dust touched him. It looked as though Zigman had just stepped out of a shower before being placed on the pile. This cleanliness was a jarring contrast to the dirty, industrial environment where his body now rested. Although he had been missing for 5 days, his face showed only 1 day of beard growth. This strange detail suggested that Zigman had been somewhere else during his long, unexplained missing time. As the investigators looked closer, they realized the man's clothing told an even more unsettling story. It appeared that someone had crudely and hurriedly redressed Zigmund's body after his mysterious death. His heavy winter coat was buttoned up the wrong way, shifted awkwardly across his stiff frame. Below the waist, his trousers were left unfastened, and his belt was not even pulled through. Even his shoes were not fastened properly, lacking the care of a man who dressed himself. He looked like a mannequin dressed in a hurry by someone who didn't understand human clothing. Why was his coat buttoned incorrectly, and his trousers left unfastened in such a cold environment? The physical evidence at the scene suggested a total lack of struggle or even movement. Most baffling of all, the surface of the coal pile remained perfectly smooth and undisturbed. There were absolutely no footprints leading up the steep sides of the pile to where he lay. Medical professionals later established that Zigmund Adamski had suffered a sudden and massive cardiac arrest. Yet, the total lack of tracks suggested he hadn't climbed up the coal of his own accord. The scene felt staged, as if the body had been dropped from above onto the coal. Every detail pointed toward a mystery that defied logic and left the local police completely baffled. What was the last thing Zigmund saw that left his face frozen in that mask of terror? The deeper they looked, the more it seemed Zigmund hadn't died here, he had been staged here. How did Zigmund Adamski end up on that towering summit without leaving a single trace behind? The 12-foot coal pile stood as a dark monument to a physical impossibility in Todmorden. Investigators quickly realized that the logistics of placing a body there defied every logical explanation. Reaching the peak of such a steep mound would normally require a messy, difficult scramble. Yet, as PC Alan Godfrey looked closer, the smooth surface of the coal remained entirely undisturbed. There were no footprints leading up the sides, nor any signs of a struggle near the top. It was as if Zigmund Adamski had simply materialized at the summit from the thin evening air. Even more baffling was the pristine condition of the man's suit amidst the filthy environment. Despite lying directly on the soot, not a single speck of coal dust marked his clothing. His skin appeared unnaturally clean, showing none of the grime one would expect from a coalyard. This lack of contamination suggested he hadn't crawled or been dragged across the black mound. The mystery deepened further when the police investigated the security of the yard itself. Heavy gates surrounding the facility had been securely locked since 11 that morning. For nearly 5 hours, no vehicle or person could have entered the yard through normal means. This meant no one could have driven a crane or ladder inside to deposit the body. If he wasn't carried in and didn't climb up, how did he reach his final resting place? The physics of the scene presented a riddle that left veteran officers completely speechless. Every piece of evidence pointed toward a scenario that felt increasingly like science fiction. A man missing 4 days suddenly appears atop a locked, undisturbed fortress of coal. The coal pile wasn't just a crime scene, it was a stage for the impossible. How could a body be staged in a location that was effectively inaccessible to any human? The lack of physical traces suggested that Zigman had been placed there from above. But the physical anomalies were only the beginning of this strange, dark puzzle. The mystery of the coal pile moved from the cold outdoors to the clinical silence of the morgue. What investigators found on Zigmund Adamski's body challenged every logical explanation they tried to construct. Then there was the gel, a substance the Home Office laboratory simply could not identify. This unidentified ointment was like a calling card from a world that doesn't use our periodic table. The substance covered serious second-degree burns found specifically on Adamski's neck and shoulders. Forensic experts concluded these painful injuries had been inflicted exactly 2 days before he passed away. Despite the severity of these wounds, there were no records of Adamski visiting any local hospital. Someone had treated him, but they did so far away from any official medical facility. Even more puzzling, the shirt Zigman wore when he vanished was nowhere to be found. His wallet and watch were also gone. Yet his remaining clothes were found in remarkably good condition. How did he have only 1 day of stubble if he'd been missing for 5 full days? Post-mortem results revealed that Zigmund had eaten well during the majority of his mysterious absence. However, his stomach was empty on the day he died, between 11 and 1 on Wednesday morning. This suggests he was being held somewhere specific and cared for until his final hours. The image of a well-fed man with 2-day-old burns creates a jarring, almost clinical contradiction. The missing time between his Friday disappearance and Wednesday death remains a black hole in the narrative. Lab technicians baffled by the strange gel could only confirm it was nothing they had ever seen. PC Alan Godfrey watched as the forensic details pushed the case further into the realm of the impossible. In the UFO hotspot of Todmorden, these bizarre findings felt like pieces of an otherworldly puzzle. A man missing 4 or 5 days, well-fed but burned, and covered in an alien substance. Could the answer lie not on Earth, but in the mysterious skies above Todmorden? Local police were stumped, but one officer was about to find himself at the center. This quiet valley holds a reputation that stretches far beyond its humble industrial roots. Todmorden and its surrounding peaks are famously known as Britain's premier UFO hotspot. For many researchers, this misty corner of West Yorkshire is considered the Roswell of England. Strange lights and unexplained crafts have frequented these dark hills for many decades. Is it a coincidence that such an impossible death occurred in this paranormal landscape? Constable Alan Godfrey was just one of the many officers investigating the coal pile. He quickly became the bridge between a simple missing person case and the truly unexplained. Why did Alan Godfrey feel a connection to this case before his world turned upside down? At the time, he was merely a patrolman doing his duty for the local force. Yet, History remembers him as one of the world's most credible alleged alien abductors. His involvement with Zigmund Adamski's body was only the beginning of a much stranger journey. The Valley's reputation for missing time seemed to hang heavy over the entire investigation. While others looked for footprints, Godfrey couldn't shake the feeling of something far more celestial. The strange gel and second-degree burns started to make sense in a cosmic context. Within this UFO hotspot, the impossible suddenly felt like a daily occurrence for some. Godfrey's presence at the coal pile linked two of history's most baffling mysteries. Was a family feud the cause? Or was it something from the UFO hotspot? The local community had long whispered about the bizarre lights seen dancing over the ridges. These sightings provided a haunting backdrop to the clinical details of the autopsy report. Even the most skeptical investigators struggled to ignore the region's strange atmospheric history. For PC Alan Godfrey, the mystery of the coal pile was becoming an obsession. Every piece of evidence seemed to point toward a truth that defied conventional logic. Godfrey was just a patrolman then, but 6 months later, he became the ultimate witness. This is where the case of Zigmund Adamski shifts from a cold mystery to a paranormal legend. In November 1980, 6 months after finding the body, Alan Godfrey faced his own terrifying ordeal. It began on a routine patrol through Todmorden when reports of missing livestock reached the station. Godfrey was dispatched to investigate a herd of cows that had mysteriously vanished from a council estate. As he drove down Burnley Road, a massive shape emerged through the gloom of the wet night. At first, the patrolman thought he was approaching a double-decker bus that had overturned in the road. Drawing closer, he realized this bizarre object was actually hovering 5 feet above the dark asphalt. The air grew thick with tension as his police radio suddenly hissed into complete, dead silence. Both his personal handset and the dash radio failed simultaneously, leaving him isolated in the dark. Instead of fleeing, Godfrey grabbed his notepad and began to sketch the strange craft before him. For 30 seconds, he captured the details of the silent intruder while it pulsated with light. Suddenly, a blinding flash filled his vision, and the mysterious craft vanished into the cold night. When the world finally stopped spinning, Godfrey found himself sitting in his car, confused and disoriented. His patrol car was now parked nearly a quarter of a mile away from where he originally stopped. Looking at his watch, the officer realized that nearly 30 minutes of his life had simply disappeared. This missing time would haunt him, serving as the first piece of an impossible physical puzzle. Upon inspecting his uniform, he discovered the soles of his police boots were split at the toes. The damage suggested he had been dragged forcefully across the ground by an unseen, powerful hand. Meanwhile, the mystery of the vanishing cows took another impossible turn in a nearby rain-soaked field. The animals were found behind a locked gate that showed no signs of being tampered with. Most chillingly, there were no hoof prints left in the soft, muddy ground by the heavy beasts. It was as if the entire herd had been plucked from the earth and dropped back down. Miles away, another driver reported seeing a brilliant white light streaking across the same lonely road. Years later, Godfrey sought answers through hypnotic regression to unlock the memories of those missing minutes. The parallels to the Adamski case were impossible to ignore. From the location to the physical trauma, Godfrey's encounter was the missing piece of a puzzle. Zigmund Adamski had started 6 months earlier. Split boots, missing time, and a locked gate created a bridge between two identical, impossible mysteries. Beyond the strange sightings, the physical evidence left behind in Todmorden tells a far more chilling story. We must look closer at the bizarre state of Zigmund Adamski. When they found him atop that coal, despite spending 5 days missing in the rough outdoors, Zigmund Adamski's body appeared spotlessly clean to investigators. It was as if he had just showered, defying the grimy reality of a towering pile of coal. This sterile condition baffled the police, who expected a man missing 4 days to be covered in filth. While Zigmund Adamski was eerily clean, PC Alan Godfrey's encounter left behind much more violent physical marks. After his brush with the unknown, PC Alan Godfrey realized he was missing nearly half an hour of time. This missing time suggests a gap in reality that no routine patrol could ever hope to explain away. But the most disturbing evidence wasn't in his memory. It was right there on his own police boots. The soles of Godfrey's boots were found split at the toe in a very specific, aggressive way. Damage of this nature suggested the officer had been dragged by a force far stronger than himself. These physical scars bridged the gap between a simple missing persons case and something truly otherworldly. The mystery deepens when we consider the missing cows that PC Alan Godfrey was searching for that night. Those missing cows were eventually located in a rain-soaked field, far from where they should have been. The field was accessible only through a locked gate, yet the animals were found huddled inside it. Strangely, there were absolutely no hoof prints visible on the soft, muddy ground surrounding the heavy cattle. How could heavy livestock enter a locked, muddy field without leaving a single trace of their arrival? Like Zigmund Adamski on his coal pile, these animals seem to have been placed there from above. Every piece of evidence in Todmorden points toward a physical interference that defies our known laws of physics. Between the clean skin and the split boots, the evidence suggests these were not mere hallucinations. These encounters left a permanent mark on the town, turning a quiet valley into a notorious UFO hotspot. While the paranormal theories took off, others looked for a human hand in the tragedy. But what if the truth is more grounded and far more sinister than any alien visitation? 25 years after the incident, investigators from Beaufort returned to the family's doorstep. They were searching for answers that the police files and autopsy reports had somehow missed. Within the quiet family home, they uncovered a tangled web of resentment and long-simmering anger. It turns out Zigmund Adamski was walking straight into a bitter, multi-generational family feud. The tension centered on his goddaughter's upcoming wedding, an event Zigman reportedly dreaded attending. Could a simple family celebration really be the catalyst for such a bizarre and tragic end? Investigators discovered that a female relative living with the Adamskis was hiding a dark secret. She had recently obtained a restraining order against her own husband to keep him away. This volatile family dynamic provided a much more terrestrial motive for Zigmund's sudden, mysterious disappearance. The family theory serves as an anchor, pulling this strange story back down to earth. Beaufort researchers began to suspect that Zigmund wasn't taken by craft, but by force. Their investigation concluded that the husband of the female relative likely kidnapped the elderly man. This theory suggests a calculated abduction rather than a random encounter with the unknown. Instead of a spaceship, they believed Zigman was held captive in a cold, secluded shed. There, far from help, he allegedly endured a harrowing ordeal at the hands of his captor. The mysterious burns on his neck were reconsidered as something much more mundane and painful. Beaufort theorized that his captor used battery acid to inflict those localized second-degree chemical burns. Was the infamous alien gel actually just a byproduct of this crude and cruel torture? This grim scenario explains the missing time without needing to invoke visitors from another world. It paints a picture of human malice hidden behind the veil of a supernatural mystery. Could a family feud really lead to such an elaborate and bizarre staging of a body? The coal pile might not be a landing site, but a deliberate attempt to confuse investigators. Is it easier to believe in visitors from another world than the cruelty of our own family? But the mystery of Zigmund Adamski isn't just about how he died, but what they found. Many assume the forensic limitations of 1980 left this case cold, but the reality is far stranger. Investigators discovered a bizarre, unidentified gel substance coating the painful second-degree burns on the victim's neck. This wasn't a standard medical ointment or any substance known to the local police in time. If someone had tried to treat his injuries, where did they get this mysterious, translucent ointment? Local hospital records were meticulously checked, yet no record of Adamski seeking medical treatment ever surfaced. He had simply vanished from the street and reappeared with these strange, treated wounds 5 days later. This brings us to the most baffling hurdle faced by the Home Office investigators during the inquiry. Samples of the strange gel were rushed to a specialized Home Office laboratory for high-level chemical analysis. These experts were equipped with the best technology 1980 had to offer for solving complex criminal cases. Despite their advanced equipment and deep knowledge, the scientists were met with a wall of total silence. The laboratory results came back with a chilling conclusion. They could not identify the substance at all. This was no failure of primitive science, but a genuine encounter with something completely unknown to humanity. Even today, the chemical composition of that strange gel remains one of the case's most haunting enigmas. How could a substance exist that specialized government labs couldn't categorize using their extensive forensic data? If the burns weren't treated by a doctor, we must ask who applied this alien ointment. The lack of medical records suggests that Adamski was cared for in a place outside our system. PC Alan Godfrey remained convinced that the physical evidence pointed toward a conclusion beyond earthly explanation. The failure to identify the substance validates the data shock that continues to baffle researchers even now. The coal pile was just the beginning. The truly impossible details were written in the chemistry itself. For decades later, we still ask if Zigmund Adamski was a victim of rage or something beyond understanding. Despite the exhaustive investigation and international attention, no one was ever arrested for his mysterious disappearance. No one was ever charged for his death, leaving his family in the world without any closure. The streets of Todmorden remained silent, holding on to the secrets of those missing 5 days in June. PC Alan Godfrey's life was forever changed by what he found atop that towering pile of coal. He remains a figure tied to a case that bridges the gap between police work and the paranormal. Was this strange gel found on Adamski's neck a product of earthly chemistry or something truly alien? Those second-degree burns tell a story of immense pain that forensic science simply could not fully explain. We are left to wonder how a man could vanish and reappear without leaving a single footprint. The impossible discovery on the coal pile serves as a haunting reminder of the limits of human logic. Perhaps the truth is hidden within the UFO hotspot that has made this Yorkshire town world. Or maybe the answer lies in the dark corners of a family feud that went terribly wrong. If the truth finally came out tomorrow, would we even be ready to hear what actually happened? The terrified expression frozen on Zigman's face suggests he saw something no human was meant to see. His story has become a scar on the history of West Yorkshire that simply refuses to heal. The mystery of his missing time remains a void that no investigation has been able to fill. Every lead eventually turns cold, vanishing just as suddenly as Adamski did on that peaceful Friday afternoon. We weigh the earthly alternatives against the cosmic possibilities, yet both paths lead to more unanswered questions. The case of Zigmund Adamski is a puzzle with missing pieces that may have never existed at all. The cold silence of the morgue failed to provide the answers that the living so desperately seek. We search for patterns in the coal and the stars, hoping for a truth that remains elusive. Zigmund Adamski remains a ghost in the machinery of justice, a man lost between two very different worlds. Until the missing pieces are found, his final moments will continue to haunt the Valley of Tod. The world moves on, but the mystery of the man on the coal pile will never truly die. Some cases are officially closed by the police, but they are never closed by those who remember. The files are open for your interpretation as we reach the end of this unsettling journey. Now, I want to hear from you, because the evidence is finally on the table for judgment. Think of yourself as the jury in a trial that never happened for Zigmund Adamski. Do you believe his presence atop that coal pile was a result of a human hand? Or was he truly a victim of something beyond our world in the Todmorden skies? Consider the strange gel found on his neck that defied every forensic test of the time. Could a simple family feud really explain the impossible lack of tracks around that towering summit? What would you do if you saw that mysterious object hovering over Burnley Road tonight? Is the testimony of PC Alan Godfrey too strong for us to simply ignore or dismiss? Perhaps the missing time he experienced holds the key to the entire mystery of Zigmund Adamski. We have examined the second-degree burns and the clinical silence of the morgue together. Now it is your investigative duty to decide which theory holds the weight of truth. Does the UFO hotspot theory explain the bizarre physical evidence better than any earthly alternative? Or was Zigman caught in a web of human rage that left the world forever baffled? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let us know where you stand on this case. Your perspective might shine a new light on a mystery that has lingered for 4 decades. Was this a tragic accident, a cold-blooded crime, or an encounter with the truly unknown? Every detail we have discussed today invites us to question the very nature of reality. Don't let the story end here, as your voice is a vital part of this investigation. Thank you for watching this investigation into the unknown and searching for the hidden truth.